How very strange. Ooh. How about now? Because it says it's doing it. How very odd. Um, Interesting. How about now? Is there sound coming now? There we go. I figured out what it was. Don't worry. Don't worry. I figured out what that was. There's a conflict between the music and the other bit. That's what's caused it. There we go. Hey, everyone's got the same issue. Everyone had the same issue all at once, and we solved it all by ourselves. Technical wondering. I'm out of focus ever so slightly. Let's see if we can't fix this. There we go. That's better as well. That's why it looked so funny, because I was out of focus. Right, let's quickly get the scores up elsewhere, because I haven't got the Elite League ones. There we go. That's what we need. That's what we need. I don't. I do not. Thank you, Jamie, for that. Right, I'll be back in 2 seconds because I've realised what I've not done. And we're back. We're back. We're back. We're back. Because we need lubrication for the nation, as it were. Just in order to give you the Bison Raiders update. It was 1-0 the last I checked, Dave. I don't know whether that's changed. Hang on. Lovely. Can we also appreciate, for the old people, right, for the older folk who watch this stream, I have, for everything that I have been through in life, and I'm now 41 years old, right? I have never had a better bottle opener in my life than this one that my mum gave me when I went to university. South African Airways. Cheers, Mum. My mum's never been to South Africa, by the way. I just have that. And yes, it's from that era as well, but it works really, really well, alarmingly. Either way, we better get rocking and rolling. Guys on the gender fluid, and all beyond the binary, it is Friday, it is 8 p.m. And welcome back to the BOTW What's Current stream. My name is Anthony Russell, here once again to take you through the weird, wonderful and wacky world that is British hockey. We cover the absolute lot of it. Belfast to Bradford, Leeds to Lee Valley, we leave no stone unturned. We look at the Elite League, the National Division, all of NIHL, Division 1 and Division 2 North and South. We look at the SNL, the WNIHL and everything and anything in between. If it's British hockey and it's been played over the last little while, then we will be looking at it here, as we usually do. A big thank you to all of you for joining us on a Friday. I know it's a different day. I do want to say as well a big thanks to the boys over at the Slapshot Syndicate, because I slightly torpedoed what they were doing. They were due to put out their special. They've done an interview with Bison defenseman Zach Shankar that was coming out at 8 tonight. They have very graciously pushed back the start of the time, because they do like YouTube premiere and it goes live and all those bits and pieces. They've very graciously pushed back the go live time on that as a result of this, because it's Friday, not a Wednesday. Short version is, wife's not been well this week. It's been a bit of a rough week here at BOTW Towers. First week back at school. The boy has not adjusted brilliantly to being back at school this week. On top of my wife not being very, very well. It's been a very, very long week here, but we're heading towards the weekend in a good spot. The beer, what have we got here? So Nathan picked this out of the shelves at Sainsbury's the other week. Tall Tales Pale Ale from Butcombe Brewing Co., which is Bristol based. So if you're ever down Pitbull's neck of the woods and you're ever in one of the local pubs, anything by Butcombe will generally see you right. And I do love a good pale ale. Nothing better to go knocking through stuff on a Friday evening. But yeah, big thanks to the boys from the Syndicate for giving me moving things. They didn't have to. There is more than enough space, but very, very gracious of them to do that. As I say, they parroted back something I've said to a lot of people before, which we in this sort of space, we pull each other up, we push each other on, and so it's greatly appreciated. But either way, we are here to talk about bits and pieces. We'll do the housekeeping bits and pieces first, as always. Banners on the wall.wordpress.com. Your number one source for all things British hockey related. Of course, the big things to do this year on the website. Follow me through my journey as I commentate on the Elite League from high atop the Guildford spectrum as the voice of Guildford Flames TV. That's In the Box Thinking. And then the other series that we generally do is our Hockey Stories series, where we do long form, in depth looks and interviews with people and tell all kinds of stories from across British and world hockey. We've done some really crazy ones. The latest one of those came at the back end of last year. That was my chat with Tyler Delabatouche from the Deeside Dragons and the Manchester Storm, and Luca Tassadri of Widnes. Sorry, Luca, we are going to have to mention what happened the other day. But that's we've come a long way together. That's in there. Next, Hockey Stories, like I say, stuff's in pre-production at the moment. Just took some time over Christmas to just kind of chill out and write bits. But of course, the first new piece of 2026 is on the website, and that was me going back home. I was back in Basingstoke. My first game of 2026 was last Saturday. I was in the Basingstoke Arena for the Bison's win over the Peterborough Phantoms. So that's the first piece of 2026, which is, like I say, made me feel quite pleased in a little way. When you think the beginning of 2024, nothing. 25, nothing. And then 2026, BOTW got to return back to its roots and where it all began, which is back in Basingstoke. I've gone on a hockey journey over the last little while, and that journey has taken me to some really interesting places, and I get to do some very cool stuff. But it was really awesome to be back kind of where it all began. So that's all there. The other bits and pieces you need to be aware of, down in the description of the video are the links to all of our socials. Check out that we've got links to X, to Facebook, to Blue Sky, where we are, as well as the link to our virtual busking hat over at buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. Just helps keep the lights on and keeps the wheels spinning. Nothing, we're not going behind a paywall or anything like that. Not our style. But it's all there to go and check out. So please do that. And of course, because we are live on YouTube, I know a lot of you like to watch on the catch-up. That's absolutely fine. You guys do you. We love all of our catch-up crew. But if you do join us live, you get the bonus of the chat. Questions, comments, thoughts, feelings, anything you want to chuck in as we chat our way through British hockey for the next sort of 60 to 90 minutes. Please do free to do so. I have missed a call from somebody. So what we're going to do is we're going to ring him back. And we're going to quickly put him on speaker and see if we can get this to work. It's the birthday boy.
Oh, don't you start.
Ladies and gentlemen, because the technology doesn't work very well, joined on the line, live from the Basingstoke Arena by the voice of Basingstoke Bison TV, it is Mr. Joe Scuts, the birthday boy.
Yeah, keep saying it. I'll keep ignoring it.
He's 21 plus back today, everybody. Joe, how's the game going? 1-0 Romford after 20 minutes.
Yeah, 1-0 Romford, and the Raiders very much deserve this lead. We'll ignore the fact that we've had a power cut in the building just as the Bison took to the ice, so hence the stream of the game sheet has gone down, but we've got it all working again now. Brandon Ailiff with the start going high glove on Max Wright inside the first minute gave the Raiders a very early lead, which they have held on to and looked very dangerous to keep going. They're playing with a very high forecheck. This Osborne-Briggs line has done phenomenal work in the first, but the most impressive man of the night so far is new signing Andrew Coxhead. He has been everywhere. He does everything. Raiders fans are going to love him, and every other fan of every other team in the league is going to hate him.
Well, of course, coming off the back of winning the Kelly Cup last year with the Trois Rivelles Lions in the ECHL. Similarities to Miller, or is he very much his own man?
Very much his own man. He is a lot more physically imposing than Sean Miller. You don't really appreciate how big he is until you see him live. He is dwarfing players like Zach Shanker and Reece Cochran at the back end here tonight. Ty Cathcart has taken a particular liking to him. He's trying to get him to drop the gloves, but to no avail so far. He is a very imposing figure at this front end for the Raiders tonight. The Raiders have been a very different team from what I saw 2 weeks ago here. They look good. They look like they've had a rocket put in their backside after last weekend. And it's a good start to their weekend.
Should also say as well, tip of the cap to, I know Dave's just put it in the chat, tip of the cap to Brandon Ailiff, of course, 450th league appearance tonight for the Raiders. Solway 2-0 up at home to the Steel Dogs at the moment as well. 0-0 the last we checked at the end of the first in the second leg of the Cup semi-final between Leeds and Swindon in the National Division. Glasgow 1-0 up on the Sheffield Steelers. Joe Hazeldine with the goal there. Coventry 2-0 up on Dundee. Dundee just can't seem, apart from managing to beat a very tired Guildford side, it's been a pretty rough run for Dundee recently.
Yeah, the stars have been really weird. I mean, from what I saw from the Elite League, it seems that you've got teams that go on these really weird long hot streaks, these really long cold streaks. And we've seen it as well in the National. The Raiders obviously have had their big loss streaks. The Bison have had them. The Sharks have had them as well. It's interesting, obviously, all three play 3 games weekends this weekend. How massive this could be in the National League in particular for the playoffs become.
A reminder to folk heading up to Solway this weekend, if you're a Basingstoke fan, junction 39 to 40 of the M6 is shut. So you are going to be on the diversion there, but that diversion does take you out right by the Tim Hortons in Penrith. So enjoy that one. But yeah, a huge couple of games up in Dumfries this weekend when it comes to the context of qualifying for the playoffs. And of course, Solway have been on something of a signing spree.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting week for them. Mitchell Hodge announced on Monday. Leon Prada announced tonight in what I've been reliably informed is the use of the Liam Stewart rule. He will count as a Brit.
This is my understanding of it as well, because he has not played any junior hockey in the United Kingdom, but has a British passport, and so he's starting to fall under the Liam Stewart rule. As a result, I did speak very briefly to Jamie Thompson, general manager of the Sharks, earlier, and his words were very Scottish and very simple. This lad is the business.
Yeah, I hope certainly he's going to count as a Brit. I've also had it sort of confirmed that someone may be out there as well in a few coming weeks, because hence he has been brought in. But that obviously is more to come. But yeah, before I shoot off back in, nice to see you live again. Hope everything's all right there. And for everyone watching, join in every week, read what he does. He actually does do some good work occasionally. And more on something that we might be doing together at the end of the season again. Everyone liked it so much the first time, we've been asked to do it twice.
Yeah, it's so nice we had to do it twice, but we'll keep you folk posted with that one. Joe, you head back. We'll catch you later.
Okay, see you in a bit. Bye.
Take care, buddy. Joe Scuts live from the Basingstoke Arena in the break there between the Bison and the Raiders. 1-0 Romford after 20 minutes thanks to TJ Anderson. Yes, Prada isn't in the lineup. I don't believe he's got his international clearance as of yet, because of course let's get his full name, because he is a double-barreled surname, does the new Solway signing, which someone is going to type into the chat, no doubt. So the full name, I'm having a fat-fingered moment there. I can't win. Leon Okonkwo Prada is the full name. 22 years old, has been spending the last couple of years in Finland. Did win a national title with the Red Bull Academy in Salzburg, but has never played any junior hockey. But the understanding is that he falls under the Liam Stewart rule. So we will see what happens there. Are we staring down the barrel of 5 imports next season in the National League? Jamie, given the fact of Leeds running 5 imports, Milton Keynes started the season running 5 imports, Hull have run 5 imports, and of course the news out of Swindon today that they have added a 5th import in the form of former ECHLer Caden Villegas. It's not Vilegas because it's 2 L's. Villegas. I don't know. We'll get some pronunciation guide off of Ben Callahan at some stage how we pronounce his name. But either way, I'm going to go for Villegas and go for that. But American forward played at Union College alongside Tyler Watkins, who's on the Wildcats at the moment. Also played there with Josh Nixon, who's currently on the roster at the Guildford Flames. And yeah, looks like, and like I say, it very much, Jamie, looks like 5 imports is going to be the move. Of course, for you older fans, some of you newer folk may not be aware, but when the EPL eventually collapsed in 2017, it was a 5 import league, having historically been a 4 import league. Very interested to see how some of the sides that are not notoriously bigger spenders will go about doing that. But like I say, if we don't end up with a 5 import national division next year, I will be incredibly surprised. It needs to be reworded to X imports per roster, not on the ice. Well, I think the thing is that a lot of leagues, Dave, do have those regulations kind of set out. Switzerland in the National League is a very, very good proponent of that. You can have, I believe, was explained to me earlier because I was chatting to somebody about this. I believe, so in Switzerland, 9 can be registered, but only 7 can play. Is how that works in the Swiss League. In Australia, for the AIHL, you can have 6 registered and play 4. So there are a bunch of ways you can kind of do that. I think kind of I think that would probably be how they go down the limit of doing that. And there might be an argument for sign 6, play 5, maybe, is what they might go down. Tom Graham, if we go to 5 imports, I'd quite like to see a rule blocking teams from carrying extras on the roster full stop, as it's just increasing the limit year on year by stealth at this point. Jamie saying 5 imports but no import net miners. I've said many times what my feelings on import net miners are, that if you have them in an import limited league, you should count them as 2 slots. Especially as well because now, off the back of GB under 20s, Ben Clark Leach is about to become a very popular boy. Goal for the Steelers. Big thank you to Andrew for chucking in that one. Brian Diffley has tied the score at the Braehead Arena. Currently now Glasgow 1, Sheffield 1. Yeah, also as well, big thanks to the folk who've been chucking in, because the warm-up question was about your methods for getting over being ill. Dave's suggestion was spicy udon or some kind of noodles. I know the boys from the Slapshot, I shall assume is probably Rossi. Orange Lucozade for hangover or illness. Can't lie, bought the wife a 4-pack of Lucozade yesterday. I preferred it when it was 2 or 3. Brits are being pushed down to NIHL 1. Well, I think one of the things with the national division, and certainly Solway's entry into the national division, is particularly guys from the south. They weren't pushed out of playing in the national division. They chose to step into Division 1 because some of those top end sides were able to kind of offer similar recompense for playing. Whilst the furthest they were travelling north was Milton Keynes, and now if you play in South 1, there are some of the financial weight of some of the teams in South 1. If you're a top end Brit, you can make enough money to where the furthest west you'll go is Cardiff, the further east you'll go is Invicta, and the further, you're not really travelling that far north. It will be a different kettle of fish next season in South 1, particularly if Oxford come back and Peterborough step up as is anticipated. But ultimately, the story goes that when the EPL collapsed in 2017, of course, you had Hull, you had Telford, you had Sheffield joining the north, you had Peterborough, Bracknell, Basingstoke joining the south, and they were told, it's 2 imports, boys, or you don't get to join. So, we'll see. I would like it to be 12 teams as well next season. We'll be very fascinated to see what happens there. I do not think there is a team in North 1 that wishes to step up at the moment. I think Blackburn are probably a couple of years out. It is not. It's pretty much an open secret at this stage that Slough wish to join the national division. The Bees, of course, kind of have their place sort of being reserved. That's still being looked at. We await any news out of the Bees as to 1, where they're going to play, and 2, what they're looking at. What it looks like in a realistic sense for them next year. Where do they go on that front? So we will have to wait and see on that one. What we should do very quickly, though, he says, quickly grabbing the beer. Like I say, Tall Tales Pale Ale from Buckham, 4.5 for a Friday night. Friday night, bit of a chin wagoner chat. That is pretty nice. Can't lie. Pretty solid. If you like your ales, that's good. If you're not a big ale person, very hoppy. Might be maybe a bit too hoppy for you folk who aren't very big on your ales. If you're much more of a Pilsner person, that one's not for you. But I like to pretend I have a discerning palate, if nothing else. What we will do then, he says, just quickly checking the fact that there's a bunch of different things flashing up on his phone at the moment. It looks like we do not have any immediacy change of scores. Second period, though, has started in Leeds. So remember, that's the second leg of the Cup semi-final between the Knights and the Wildcats. 0-0 on the night. Swindon leading 4-3 on aggregate at the moment. What we do, let's hit the graphics, and we'll have a quick scoop through the results from the Elite League and the National Division. We'll basically cover New Year up to now, because we did talk, of course, on New Year's Eve. So starting in the Elite League on New Year's Day itself, 3 games on New Year's Day, and well, a few surprise results. Guildford beating Cardiff by 5-3, having lost both previous games in the Vindico by 7-1. Huge result for the Flames. They took 4 points off of Cardiff in 3 days, which is pretty impressive. And Manchester shutting out the Steelers in Altrincham to get 4 points over the Steelers into that bargain as well. Coventry took 3 from 4 off of Nottingham. A late power play goal from David Noel, giving the Panthers the win in the Sky Dome, but only after Coventry had won the day before. which then took us into last weekend proper, the 3rd and 4th of January, the first full weekend of league action in the Elite League. This is Saturday the 3rd. Manchester, well, their winning run came to an end. They lose 6-4 at home to the Belfast Giants. Coventry, though, immediately back on the horse, and a good 4-1 win for them away in Glasgow. Guildford were a goal up in the NIC, of course. A recent pretty heavy win over the Panthers in the NIC that stopped Panthers' winning run, but they get the victory in overtime over the Flames to get a measure of revenge. Sheffield back on the horse. They beat Five Flyers and Logan Nielsen by 4-1. Cardiff rebounded from their losses to the Flames for the 5-2 win over Dundee. And then into the Sunday, Dundee, well, Flames just ran out of puff. They had a really, really good back end of December into the start of January, had to travel all the way up to the DIA, and just their legs failed them at the last, only running 3 lines into the bargain as well. Dundee get a much needed win by 4-3. Panthers beat the Clan 4-1. Fife and Manchester have a bit of a ding-dong battle, which of course has been talked about. Garrett Hunt's antics and his walloping of Dante Hanoun has seen the Flyers captain given a 6-game suspension for sucker punching Dante Hanoun into the bargain there. So the captain will be out for a little while, and the Storm get the extra point, winning in the shootout. And then the Blaze, who were all over the shop a couple of weeks ago, beat the Giants 4-3. They were 3-1 down at home to Belfast before 2 power play goals from Jere Virtanen and a game winner from Alessio Luciani put the Blaze over the line there. That other game is from Wednesday night. Dundee, well, they got some points against the Flames. The Giants were not so kind. 7-4 Belfast win. So the Elite League table at the moment, this is with games ongoing, we'll worry about that later, but at the moment it looks like this. The Nottingham Panthers, top of the Elite League, 3 points clear of the Devils, having played the same number of games. Cardiff, 5 points, Belfast 5 points back with 2 games in hand, which means that the Panthers are clear at the top of the table at the moment. But of course, they and Sheffield will very much be very much in the hunt. Then, as you see, a 7-point gap between the Steelers in 4th and the Storm in 5th. They have points and games in hand on the Flames in 6th, Glasgow in 7th, Coventry in 8th at the moment, who have an 8-point gap between them and the Dundee Stars in 9th, but a 3 games in hand for the Stars. The issue being is that those games are going to be against teams against those teams that are on 25, teams like Belfast, teams like Manchester, and that will be an issue for them. Fife still bottom. They did get off the bottom very, very briefly, but they are tied on points with Dundee. The Stars have got 4 games in hand. So just looking then into the fixtures, we know what's going on tonight. 1-1 between the Clan and the Steelers. 2-0 Coventry over Dundee as it stands at the moment. Before we head into tomorrow evening, Saturday night, and of course, that's where you will find me back at the Guildford Spectrum for the first game for the Flames on home ice of 2026. 6 p.m. face-off between the Flames and the Blaze, where you can join me to talk you through this old rivalry that dates back to the BNL. 6 p.m. face-off between the Flames and the Blaze in Guildford. It will be live from about 5:55. Manchester take on Cardiff. Fife take on Sheffield. Belfast versus Nottingham. Huge game in the context of the Elite League title. And then into Sunday, Belfast back home at the SSE against Manchester. Cardiff versus Glasgow down at the Vindigo. Dundee with a tough test against Sheffield. Nottingham taking on Fife. We then head into the National Division to have a look at everything that's happened. We go back to the beginning, and New Year's Day. The first game of 2026 was down in the southwest, and the league leadings win the Wildcats, putting themselves in a good position. They power past the Basingstoke Bison by a score of 6-2. On the following, and then shortly after that, Romford and MK. Well, we've seen some changes in Romford, this new import, but it was the MK Lightning who managed to get themselves over the line. 6 goals to 3. Sorry, 5 goals to 3. Sorry, 6 goals to 3. In something that caused a bit of controversy with a goal that very clearly did not enter the front of the net. Romford seems to be on the back end of some very, very frustrating refereeing decisions so far this season. Then into last Saturday, the 3rd of January, and that's where I was, of course, Basingstoke 4, Peterborough 2. Lovely to see the Bison actually get a win over Peterborough anywhere at all. Fantastic contrast for me as well, because I was at the first game at the reopening of the rink in Basingstoke, which was again against Peterborough, that the Phantoms won by 5-1. So to be able to kind of see where both sides have kind of gone and what they've done in the interim was very, very interesting. Full breakdown and write-up of that over on the website, bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. Puppy Bowl down in the southwest was won by the Sheffield Steel Dogs, who are making sure that Swindon stay honest. 3-1 for Slava Kulikov's side down in Bristol. MK, well, they got the win the other day in a 6-3 win. This one they do not. They lose 6-3 in the Thunderdome against the Telford Tigers. And then, well, the game that should really see Matty Davis get some sort of fine, as he absolutely chews the referees out. Solway win 5-2, but if you've not watched Matty's post-game interviews with this, definitely worth watching, because it's something very, very different. But a solid win for the Sharks, knowing that playoff race is already starting to heat up. Into Sunday then, and it was a 4-point weekend for the Dogs over the Pitbulls. They won back at home by 4-3. Basingstoke couldn't take the momentum from Saturday into Sunday, the Leeds Knights, as they look to try and mount some sort of title challenge from third, beating the Bison by 4-1. Hull, well, they do get their win over the Solway Sharks. They win by 6-5, but either way, certainly a different looking Hull, of course, as we know. Owen Sobchuk gone from the Seahawks. He scored points for the Knights in his first game for Leeds against Basingstoke. But what will Hull be able to do without last year's National Division MVP on the roster? Swindon managed to get some points with only a 1-point weekend for Peterborough, as the Cats win in OT in Peterborough against the Phantoms. Ben O'Connor doing Ben O'Connor things in this game. And then Romford, well, they're doing better tonight after Telford put the first couple of overs of a 2020 cricket game on them. 10-2 Tigers at the end of that one. Which then takes us in that result for Telford. They are very much in the fight. They are up into 4th, but it's the Cats who lead the way. 51 points to 50 for the Steel Dogs. The Wildcats have 3 games in hand over Sheffield. Leeds then are 7 points back of Sheffield, but they also have 3 games in hand over the Dogs. That would keep the Dogs 1 point ahead, but you cannot count out the Leeds Knights. If there's any team that knows how to find a way, it is going to be Leeds. Telford in 4th, Peterborough 5th, MK 6th, Hull 7th, and Romford in 8th. Now, you can see here that the gap is starting to close. The Raiders have played 4 games more than Basingstoke. The Bison are back by a point. If the Bison can come back this evening and find a way to win against the Raiders, then the Bison will go into 8th and will get into the playoffs for the first time this season. Of course, they are still playing catch-up following their delayed start to the year. Bristol in 10th, Solway, who of course, like we see, have made a raft of moves recently. Michael Hodge plays his first game for the Sharks this evening following his move across from Germany and the Lauterbach Luchse of the Regionalliga Nordost. But the Sharks need to make some moves. 5 points back of 10th as they look to try and make the playoffs for the first time since their entry into the National Division. Fixture-wise, as we know, tonight, this is where we are. Of course, these graphics are fixture graphics done by the fantastic and now GB Under-20 netminder, Max Van Mullum. Congratulations to Max and all of the boys over there. Silver confirmed for GB Under-20s. Hopefully, Maxi will be able to get some ice time, though. Ben Clark-Leach has been commanding that net something proper. Hopefully, Maxi can get a minute or two, though, as before that tournament ends. Either way, we are massively proud of him here, and we thank Max for his contributions as he gives us every week. Bases at Romford, Leeds, Swindon, Solway, Sheffield, of course, are ongoing. Into tomorrow, then, 5 games on the docket. One towards the bottom end of the table between Bristol and Romford, because of course they Romford and the Bison, Romford, Solway, and the Bison in for big busy weekends. Leeds take on Peterborough tomorrow. MK take on Hull. Really interested to see where that one goes. Solway and Basingstoke Part 1 on Saturday night in Dumfries, and Swindon will head home and take on the streaking Telford Tigers. Oh, there we go. Into Sunday then. Hull versus MK about face at the World's West Versatile Arena. Peterborough take on Bristol. Romford take on Swindon. Solway take on Basingstoke Part 2. And then Telford versus Sheffield, 6:30 p.m. over in Shropshire. We'll quickly go back to the full screen. We lose 10-2 while only icing one import. That's a you problem. That's very much a you problem on that front. Just having a quick look at the bits and pieces. Bison have killed off an early power play. Wilstead was sat for hooking in that one. Solway have killed a penalty against the Dogs as well. Still 2-0 to Solway at the Shark Tank. Can they get some momentum going ahead of a big important weekend as Basingstoke visit for the first time up to Scotland? Never played Dumfries, never played the Border Vikings before in Solway's previous iteration. So a fun weekend. I know a few Bison fans are making their way up. We will see what sort of atmosphere they're able to generate. One of the longest journeys in the National Division. Oh, that is very, very nice. Just having a quick check to see what else we've got. We'll just quickly do that. 2-1 Sheffield is the news out of Glasgow at the moment. We're just having a look just because the scoreline has ticked up, but the game sheet is still updating. One of the frustrations as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Day. I knew you could be relied on. Miko Usala with the goal for the Sheffield Steelers has them 2-1 to the good at the end of the first period at the Braehead Arena. The one of the things that's quite frustrating that you can probably appreciate is that this laptop that I do the stream on, this comes with me to Guildford games, so I will have bits of in my hand. In fact, I should actually have them to hand. Where are they? Because I printed some stuff off earlier, so my work bag is here. So what I generally have is I have a few bits of paper. He's just trying to hold things up so you can kind of see players, stats. So I have a list of kind of team information, and then I will have a list of sort of player stat bits and pieces like that. At the moment, because Coventry are playing right now, my job tomorrow morning is I have that, which is a blank sheet of paper with a load of gaps in it to fill everything in. So that's tomorrow morning's job once the Blaze are finished off doing whatever it is they're doing with Dundee tonight. But I will hold these in my hand, mostly for quick reference for a few bits and pieces. So we'll put the stats on one side, put the team info on the other, and we'll kind of flip between them and have them in my hand. But I will always have the game sheet up on this laptop. And the problem is there is always a gap where they're entering the details, but you know it's on there. It's like, I've watched this goal be scored, but I kind of need the assist. And it will just say time 000 and then just a blank line of nothing. So I'm just sat there talking away into my microphone, furiously hitting refresh on the laptop into the bargain, which always keeps me on my toes, if nothing else. So. But yeah, there's been a few bits and pieces that have been that have happened over the last couple of days across the Elite League and the National Division. We talked about some of the signing bits and pieces. Sheffield, of course, making a signing today. Former NHLer Brett Ritchie into the lineup for the Steelers. He is not playing tonight, I don't believe, because I do not believe he has received his international clearance. He is definitely not in the lineup tonight. Although Kyle Watson is for the Steelers. He's in the lineup for them this evening. So good for him on that front. But Ritchie, of course, Ritchie had just coming off the back of a sort of 8-game spell with Villach in the Ice League. Villach at the moment are a giant mess. So the fact he's got out of there is not a huge surprise. But with Derek Gentile jumping ship, leaving the Sheffield Steelers and heading back to the ECHL, joining the Atlanta Gladiators, coached by a gentleman by the name of Matt Ginn, for those of you who remember that name from the last couple of years. But yes, so plenty going on there. A goal in Solway, a goal for the Steel Dogs. Thanks very much to Jamie for putting that in the chat. Jacob Brammer has the Dogs on the board. One for the future there for Sheffield fans. Jacob Brammer from Joe Matthewman at 28.30, getting them rocking and rolling on that one. So Solway's defence holds out for a while, but the seal has been broken on this one, and the lead for the Sharks cut in two. Still 2-0 to Coventry. although the Blaze have had a goal disallowed. The referees review, Blaze claiming a goal, referees review, and the puck judged to have not crossed the goal line. So the Blaze could have been 3-0 up, but not to be. We will see what else we can kind of get out of those bits and pieces. But yes, so a few bits and pieces obviously going on. Like I say, we've seen a few bits of movement signing wise as we edge ever closer towards the signing deadline towards the end of this month. Remains to be seen what happens there. And of course the big discussion, like we talked about a little bit earlier, 5 imports heading towards the national division, it looks like. But how many teams will sign the extra import? Of course still 4 imports on the game day roster at the moment. A lot of discussion as to whether other teams will follow suit. Of course, whatever Solway are doing, which appears to just be, like Joe said, some discussion that Solway might be dropping a player. Somebody might be on their way out. Given some of the signings they've made, you do have to feel like that's a possibility. But what will other teams around the bottom end of the table, Ainsley's the playoffs, what will they look to do? Romford, of course, losing Sean Miller, have bought in Andrew Coxhead, and that puts them back up to the regulation amount of the maximum amount of imports. Bison run 4 as well. Will Basingstoke, knowing that they can potentially dip into the Nell pot of money, will they look to add a 5th import, or will they change things up to somebody like even though his numbers are pretty decent, is Max Wright sacrificed for a British netminder to put an extra body up front, or do they sacrifice maybe Zach Shanker? You have to venture that, given how they've gotten on so far, that Brendan Sellon and Luke Spadafora will probably be there now for the duration unless they move on themselves. Lots of questions still open there at the moment. Expensive housing people around London. It very much is whenever people sort of said to me a couple of years ago, oh, Streatham should join the National Division. How and with what money? To do that was always the issue there. Goal Leeds Knights. It is tied an aggregate in the Cup semi-final. Mac Howlett has found the back of the net, assisted by a man who Swindon fans know all too well. Balan Pakodzi has the assist, as Mac Howlett has helped tie this game. Oh, that's the wrong button, Anthony. No, not that. I've pressed all the wrong buttons. But there we are. This Cup semi-final is tied. Although, just looking at that, off the back of the first period, Swindon had 4 shots on goal. That's not good. That is not good at all. Just double checking there. Bison back on the penalty kill. Reece Cochran called for elbows, which is always very, very promising. But yeah, either way, what we will have a quick look at, because there has been some games elsewhere. I'm going to put my beer down somewhere I can actually grab a hold of it. There we go. We will head back to the graphics because, and a big thanks, of course, to Connor over at SNL Match Results. So SNL Ice Hockey Updates over on Facebook. Do make sure you go check out Connor's page. We'll just look back to last weekend and the action from the Scottish National League. Now, we talked last time about watching Edinburgh's game against North Ayr. Pretty crazy stuff. Edinburgh, though, losing out to Dundee in recent action, but last weekend back to winning ways for the Capitals. They put double figures up against the Solway SNL Sharks. 10-1 for the Caps, who are still pushing on in that title race in the Scottish National League. Elsewhere, of course, Whitley, another team in the title race in the SNL. Lovely little piece on them on BBC Look North. If you haven't had a chance to do that, Whitley have put the video up on their socials, so do go check that out as well. But a good win away for them in Ayrshire against the Wild, 5-2 for Tony Hand's side. And then the second leg of the other quarterfinal of the Scottish Cup is done. Dundee with a comfortable 3-1 win over the Kirkcaldy Kestrels, which means the Rockets win by 9-3 on aggregate in that quarter-final. And then just the one game from Sunday in the SNL, a very, very close affair. A few games that were not quite so close on Saturday, but Solway and Kirkcaldy run each other close in Dumfries, but Kirkcaldy come out with all the points. A 5-4 win for the Kestrels this past Sunday in southwest Scotland. The league table then, as it stands, the Caps are back to the top and they at the moment, given the games in hand, are the ones in the driver's seat. 31 points for the Capitals from 17 games. They have 4 games in hand on Whitley and a point more, and then a game in hand on Dundee with a 2-point cushion over the reigning SNL League champions. Paisley are in 4th on 27, followed by Kirkcaldy, Aberdeen, North Ayr and Solway, and of course our friends down the bottom. They didn't play this past weekend, as we saw, but Kilmarnock still very much in the goose egg club. 17 games played, 17 defeats, only 32 goals scored and 211 conceded. A bit of quick maths tells me that is more than the top 4 teams combined. So that is a bit of a frustrating one there for the Thunder as they look to try and get anything. There's the big question, and you can stick this one in the chat. Who gets a point first? Scimitars or the Thunder? Which one comes out of that one best? Looking then at the Scottish Cup, as we know, the Rockets have beaten the Kestrels in the last quarter-final, which means the semi-finals for the Scottish Cup will be incoming, both over 2 legs, as we know. Whitley take on Aberdeen. Whitley knocked their way past Paisley, having played the playing game against Solway in the first round. Aberdeen's comfortable win over Kilmarnock has them for a semi-final date at Hillheads. And then Edinburgh will take on Dundee. Massive game in the Cup semi-final there on that side of the bracket. Should be really, really interesting. Both these teams staring down the potential of a Grand Slam, as are Whitley at the moment. Who will come out the best between Edinburgh and Dundee? I'm sure the Maccas won't help people saying Swindon are a boring team to watch, especially away from the league. You see, having watched bits and pieces of Swindon, and like I say, it's all game tape this year, I don't think they're boring. They're just much more locked in. They're just much more consistent this season. This has always been the big issue for Swindon. Was never the quality. It was always the consistency. And this season it feels like Swindon have found their consistency. I'm sure the Maccas would disagree. I'm sure they probably would. Or the other thing, which I was told by Peterborough fans for years, of, well, we're winning, so it doesn't matter. Goals, Steel Dogs. John O'Phillips from Bear Gendenov, and the lead for the Sharks has gone. They were in a good position, but now the Dogs, of course, like we said, still very much on for a title charge, are not, are still finding ways to get themselves some results. Interesting as well to see, given this game tonight, that Curtis Warburton between the pipes for the Steel Dogs in that one. What we'll do is we'll have a quick flick, because it's time to look through the rest of the NIHL structure, which we will do, starting as we like to do in North 1, heading back to this past Saturday. We've been through all the other festive season games, so we're just left with whatever is left from the 3rd and the 4th of January. And up in the North, well, it's been a pretty tough year for the Billingham Stars at times. The dominance of years past very much behind them now, as they are part of the chasing pack, but a very solid win for them in their double home weekender. They started off with the Forum on Saturday, a 7-2 win over the Hull Jets, a team that had beaten them in Hull a couple of times, and once very much in controversial fashion. Sorry, Jets fans. That goal in OT was still offside. Either way, as you can see there, a natural hat-trick from Captain Michael Elder towards the end there. Callum Wilkinson, Matt Pickup, Chris Sykes and James Moss with the other goals for Billingham. Richie Hagar and Aidan Dancer with the goals for the Jets in that one. On Saturday, could our friends the Scimitars get themselves a point? No, they did get a goal. Simon Williams with the lone tally there for the Shims, but they dropped to 0-24 thanks to a 7-1 defeat at home against the Telford Tigers. 2 goals for Tyler Somerton, and then goals from Vlad Luca, Ollie Hunt, Tom Byrne, Jason Silverthorne and Matt Maurice. Doing the damage there for Telford. As we can see there, Nick Winters facing 48 shots and making 41 saves into the bargain. And then Sunday, a little bit of controversy in this game. And if you haven't gone and checked out the Billingham Stars podcast with Craig Carroll and Jono, I do advise that you do so. But you're not reading this wrong. The Leeds Knights 2, who came into this game with an average age of 17 and a bit. It was below 18, the average age of the Knights roster. But the Knights win in a shootout against the Billingham Stars in Billingham. That's not, and as you can see there, a game-tying goal from Kurt Spalmanis at 59-59. before winning in the shootout. Now, the issue here is that what has emerged is that it's a 3-shot shootout in NIHL Division 1, and the referee played 5. After 3 shots apiece, Billingham were leading the shootout, and after 5, the Knights have won the game in a game that should not have gone to 5 shots. Now, the referees asked the scorers table. The scorers table asked Craig in the penalty box. Sorry, not in the penalty box, in the DJ box. And the rules having changed, for whatever reason, they ended up doing 5 shots instead of 3. And Billingham ended up losing as a result. As you can appreciate, they're not very happy over at the Billingham podcast, the Stars podcast. But this is the sort of thing that should have been avoided, because ultimately somebody, and I'm looking at the officials, could have just gone and checked the rules if they didn't know. Pretty bad stuff on that front. Billingham will feel hard done by. Of course, the controversial disallowed goal against Blackburn, where Tom Barry didn't so much push the net off as throw it off, and now into this as well. Billingham appear to be the Romford of the North at the moment. But either way, you have to credit the Knights, because in those issues with the shootout or not, this is a Leeds roster that went up there with an average age not old enough to buy a pint and beat the team that won every trophy in the Morley last season. Huge congratulations to Davy Lawrence and his team. James Moss, Chris Sykes, Callum Wilkinson, Lucas Dowdle and Ian Brown with the goals for Billingham. Josh Hartley, Tom Dermott, Helgi Bjarnason, 2 from Danny Harrison, and that late game-tying goal from Kurt Baumanis give Leeds the win in this one. As you can see there, for Jacob Hammond playing 1 minute and 52, because fine, and Ollie Booth making 42 saves on the night. Another tight game as well in Widnes, one that the Tigers win in overtime. Tyler Somerton, the hero, as the Wild get a point at home against Telford, but the Tigers do take the extra one in a game where Taylor Stanton scored a Michigan on our friend Luca Tasadri. Sorry, Luca. We do need to mention it, though, because it was a very, very good goal. And also, as you can see there, Vladimir Luka scoring his 44th goal of the season. They've played 23 games. Let that sink in. Goals for the Wild coming from Josh Guy, Robbie Thompson, Andrew Hopkins, Mikey Gilbert and Alex Parry. Goals for the Tigers, 2 from Charlie Webb, as we mentioned, 1 from Vlad Luka, the winner from Tyler Somerton, 1 from Taylor Stanton and 1 from Matt Maurice. One game that was not very tight on Sunday was over in North Wales. Deeside batter Nottingham for good measure, 11 goals to 2 for the North Wales side. The game was 2-1 at one point before everything went completely sideways for the Lions in this one. In fact, to the point that Joe doesn't even have the shot count from the third period for the Dragons. Remember, of course, all these box scores available at nhlstats.wordpress.com. A 7-point night for Colin Cromie, a 7-point night for Jake Witkowski. Cromie goes 2+5, Witkowski 4+3, Ross Kennedy 3+4. So Cromie with 2 goals, Witkowski with 4, Kennedy with 3, and goals from Jared Dickinson and Ryan Jones for the Dragons. The 2 goals for the Lions coming from Luke Birchnell and Jack Croston. But as we don't know the shots, hard to know what happened for the Lions on that one. Tyler Delabatouche makes 28 saves before letting Phil Pearson have a go towards the back end of the third. This upcoming weekend then, games in North 1. Blackburn, having had a week off, having played over Christmas, they are back in action at home against Nottingham on Saturday. Telford versus Billingham in Shropshire on Saturday night. Widnes versus Deeside in the local derby, and then Solihull versus Hull at Hobbsmoat Road and is the late one on Saturday evening. And then on Sunday, Billingham versus Blackburn is going to be huge. Deeside and Widnes will outface and play in North Wales. Solihull versus Sheffield. Can Sheffield spring a surprise there? And then the late face-off at the small pad at the NIC. Nottingham versus Hull. The league table at the moment stands like this. Blackburn are qualified for the playoffs already, and they have a 16-point gap over Telford. Telford do have a game in hand, which would make it a 13-point gap. Either way, the battle at the bottom there is for that last playoff spot between Nottingham and Leeds. Sorry, Sheffield, it would take a miracle at this point. But the Lions have a 4-point gap over the Knights, with having played a game less than Knights 2. Aidan Hill from TJ Anderson, brilliant, just what we like. Thanks, Gutsy, for jumping in and telling us that one, just what we needed to hear. I do wish the Bison could wake up on a Friday evening, but traditionally never done well. It was always Wednesdays. There was always a Wednesday game in the old EPL. You'd be guaranteed one game between Swindon and Basingstoke in Basingstoke on a Wednesday night. It would always be dull as dishwater. Hill's done a lot better than I thought this season. He's fitting nicely. Yeah, he's actually been quite. I don't know whether he's been quite as impactful as I was thinking he was going to be, Dave, but he's certainly not. It's been no slouch. Not been a slouch this year at all. Meanwhile, in South 1, and without first choice netminder Max Van Mullen, a pretty comfortable night for the Chelmsford Chieftains over the Romford Buccaneers. Romford could have probably done with some of Max's saves here, but not to be on this one. A pretty comfortable win for the Chieftains in this one. 2 goals from Grant Bartlett, 2 from Cam Bartlett, and 2 from Sasha Maltsev as the Chieftains get a comfortable win there. As you can see there, 37 shot shutout for Ross Miller. As Owen Ryder gets some game time for the Buccaneers in Max's absence and makes 23 saves. Elsewhere on the Saturday evening, the league champs were depleted due to the raft of suspensions post the fun and games they had in Invicta, but a comfortable one still for Slough. They win by 8 goals to 2 against Solent in this one. And a chance for some of the guys a little more on the periphery, not the biggest scorers, to get some time, and get some time they do. Even down to the point actually where Ollie Hemmings Mar suspended because of a boarding call for the Bison against Romford in Romford. So they just put Felix, his brother, in his shirt. 2 goals for Juha Lindgren, 2 for Aaron Edworthy, and goals as well from Jacob Soper, Christian Moore, Jacob Minter and Kyle Bradburn for the Jets. The 2 goals for the Devils coming from Jack Peacock and Alex Murray. Into Sunday then, and a win in Kent for the Swindon Wildcats. 2-0 up in this game as well, thanks to Hayden Lee and Will Harding. Luca Pasquale with the Dynamo's lone goal. Of course, the Dynamo's suffering a little bit from suspension trouble given the names that they have lost as a result, and it's clearly showing the issue there for the fact that the Cats managed to sneak out of Kent with the victory. Harry Thomas in net for the Wildcats too, in the absence of Ben Clark-Leach, making 51 saves. And then Slough, well, you did wonder how they would do with some different opposition. They struggle away on the road. A big win for the Chieftains. 6 points on the board for Lewis Clifford's side as they put the league champions to the task there. A hat-trick in this one from Grant Bartlett. Goals as well from Ollie Baldock, Dan Fay and Regan O'Neill. The Jets on the board through Christian Moore, Jacob Soper and the returning Ollie Hemmings Mar. But yes, not a night to forget in net, unfortunately, for Rory McGibbon. He makes only 17 saves on 23 shots. Heading into this weekend, Solent and Invicta will try and get back to winning ways this coming Saturday down on the south coast. Challenge Cup action between Streatham and Chelmsford on the high road at 5:30. And Cardiff are the hosts for Slough, who will have a couple of names back this weekend. That's a 6:45 face-off at the Vindico. Into Sunday, Chelmsford take on Cardiff at the Riverside. Slough versus Romford at the Hangar. Swindon take on Streatham at the Link Centre. As we just look at the league table there, still quite tight in South 1. Teams with games in hand as well there. They Streatham with 3 games in hand on Chelmsford and a game in hand on Slough. Chelmsford on 35 from 16, Slough 34 from 14, Streatham 30 from 13. As we just have a quick look there. And there we are, end of the second period in Leeds. The Knights lead by a goal to 0 on the night. It is 20 minutes all or nothing for a place in the National Division Cup final as the teams are 4-4 heading into that third period. Into North 2. And Sutton Sting, of course, who we know are hot on the heels of the Sheffield Titans with games in hand and points to spare. Well, they were not feeling like giving any gifts away to start the new year. They beat the Altrincham Aces by 7 goals to 2 at Ice Sheffield. A win that it could have been a potential banana skin, but one that they end up managing to avoid on this one. 2 goals for the Sting from Adam Brooks Smith and 2 from Joe Colton. Goals as well for Jasper Wright, Ryan Apsley and Matthew Barton. The aces goals coming from Josh Milnes and Dylan Harcourt. Shout out as well to Mike Rogers with the 47 save performance in net for him. Also as well, shout out Samantha Bolwell getting 35 minutes in net for the Sting. In this one, the Titans, could they keep pace? And the answer was yes. They win by 6-2 at home against Deeside Dragons 2, as the Titans, who have been something of a surprise story this season, probably not for people inside Sheffield, but for us on here, considering how bad the Scimitars have been, the Titans are the absolute reverse, all things considered. Dragons goals coming from James Shaw and Noah Percival. Titans getting 6 goals from 6 different goal scorers. Noah Barnes, Harry Roebuck, Reese Wickens, Tom Humphreys, Joe Gray and Sam Parkin on the board for the Titans. Nottingham and Bradford. Well, Nottingham got their first win of the season against the Bradford Bulldogs in overtime, having come from miles back to get there. And the Lions have beaten the Bulldogs again in regulation. They ran it close. Nottingham was 7-2 up inside the first half hour before 3 goals in the last 9 minutes from the Bulldogs nearly sprung a bit of a surprise. Josh Stockton as well is up to 20 goals on the season for Bradford. There's somebody sneaking up the scoring charts we hadn't realised. But the Lions hold on for their first regulation win of the North 2 season, powered by those 4 goals from Charlie Davenport, Harvey Smith, Jake Fisher and Connor Bennett with the others there for the Lions too. A hat-trick for Josh Stockton and 2 goals from Aaron Jordan are on the board for the Bulldogs. Not much going on this weekend in North 2, but it is the fantastic midday face-off at the World's Most Versatile Arena. Kingston Sharks, Billingham Buccaneers in League and Cup action. And then for contrast, 7 p.m. in the Sky Dome as Coventry take on Deeside 2. On Sunday, Bradford will welcome Billingham down to Yorkshire at 5:30, and a 6:10 face-off at the Storm Shelter, the Altrincham Aces and Deeside Dragons 2. Oh, apologies. We need to look quickly at the table. As we know, 3 teams now qualified for the playoffs in North 2. The Titans, the Sting and the Buccaneers have all punched their ticket to the post-season, with it looking like it might be a little out of the Lions' reach. However, they might like to keep facing Bradford if it gets them some results there. But the Titans have played 4 games more than the Sting and lead by 12 points. Literally, when these 2 teams meet each other, it could decide the North 2 title. End of the second, 3-2 Coventry in the Sky Dome. Matthew Boudens and I believe Bradley Schoonbart scored the other goal for the Stars to make it 3-2. Jeri Virtanen on the power play with that 3rd goal of the night for the Blaze. And then there's not much to talk about in South 2, but we'll have a quick look at it. Sunday down at the Spectrum. If you haven't, Izzy, who does the filming for the Flames, was down doing some camera work and bits and pieces for the Phoenix. Got some great social media bits and pieces for that one. IZZ on film on Instagram for that. But a win for the Phoenix and a much needed one if they look to keep pace with the Peterborough Phantoms too. 7-2 win for the Phoenix over the Solent Junior Devils. The Junior Devils 2-0 up before Guildford got a goal at 19:59 through Ollie Dennis, and after that the Phoenix decided that they were not playing games anymore. As we mentioned, 1 goal from Ollie Dennis out of it, but he had 2 on the night. Josh Abbott with 2 as well as goals from Nick Minhinnock, Jared Vigar and Sean Reynolds. Goals for the Junior Devils coming from Charlie Wedge and Ollie Cackett. As you can see there, yes, Tyler Campbell faced 72 shots. Dimitris Volkovs faced 18. I like Tyler Campbell a lot. That kid has faced a lot of rubber the last couple of years. Elsewhere on Sunday, a tight win in the playoff race, but a win for the Cardiff Canucks as they have announced that they now are going to have to charge for games. It's been free entry for the Canucks since their inception down in Cardiff Bay, but now as they need to up their security in bits and pieces due to the numbers that they're getting, you do now have to pay to go to Canucks games as a result. End second, Bison 0 Raiders 2. Hill on the doorstep after a mix-up in the Bison defence fires home the second. Other end, Harding absolutely robbed by CC to keep the shutout intact. Joe has said the magic word and therefore hopefully has ruined that for Cole CC. I do not apologise in the slightest. Big thanks to Andrew for sticking that in the chat as well. Stephen Saigo has equalised for the Glasgow Clan. I assume that's end of second rather than end of first. Do not worry, Andrew. Not a problem at all. Everyone's allowed to miss up their numbers. But either way, Cardiff with a 4-3 win over the MK Thunder, coming in with an overtime winner inside the last minute of the extra frame. Joe Tyrrell converting to give the Canucks the extra point. Both teams combining for over 100 shots. Steve Osman with 2 goals and Zach Shanahan with a goal to go along with Tyrrell's overtime winner. The goals for the Thunder in this one coming from Callum Worthington Evans, Harry McGarvey and Marks Canis. As you can see there, Aaron Burton making 57 saves. John Dibble making 41 saves. A pretty busy night at both ends there. In something of a local derby, certainly the battle of former landlord against former tenant, Oxford defeat Bristol by 7-4 at the Ox Pens. A good win for the Rising Stars as they look to try and keep pace with the playoffs. It was 5-1 Oxford before Bristol decided to come back into this one before the Rising Stars eventually pushed themselves out of the way. A hat-trick in this one from Theo Bundock, as well as goals from Kieran Wilson, Joe Edwards, Matt Lawday and Danny Williams. Goals for the Pitbulls coming from Ollie Schoen, Ian Spridgen and 2 goals from Logan Johnson. This upcoming weekend then in South 2, Lee Valley back in action after the new year. They've got what is a winnable game for them at home against the Chelmsford Warriors. Peterborough, as they look to keep their perfect record intact, they welcome the Oxford Rising Stars to Breton. Invicta take on MK at 7 p.m. down in Gillingham. Invicta will then go back to action the next night. Eddie Joseph Memorial Cup campaign continues for them as they take on Chelmsford. Bristol versus Guildford is a 7:30 p.m. face-off over in the southwest on Sunday. Don't like that scheduling at all. And then we don't know the face-off time, but Lee Valley will take on MK in another potentially winnable game for the North London side. There's the table as it stands though. Peterborough still perfect, 13 from 13. Guildford have played 2 games more and trail them by 2 points. They have a 10-point gap over Invicta in third. As you can see there, Cardiff, Haringey, Oxford, MK and Slough make up the rest of the playoffs. Bristol still nipping on the heels though of the Spitfires. Both teams have played 13 and have 15 points. Chelmsford are a couple of points back, and then Solent and Lee Valley prop up the table there. Let's quickly come back to full screen before we talk about the WNIHL, mostly so I can get up the notes that Andrew gave me about the WNIHL. So just looking as we know, Basingstoke, Romford 2-0 up against Basingstoke. Solway and Sheffield are at 2-2. We are in the second intermission at the Castle. Leeds lead by 1-0 on the night, tied at 4 in the cup semi-final there. As things stand, Glasgow are 3-2 to the good now against the Steelers. Stephen Saigo with the second goal has got them back into it. A third goal for the Clan coming from Ryland Schwartz to have them ahead against the Steelers in the second period. Coventry Dundee is 3-2 at the end of the second, as we know. Coventry were 3-0 to the good. Yeri Verton's power play goal, and then Bradley Schoombert and Matthew Boudens have pulled goals back for the Stars in that one. Oh, that is a very, like I say, it's just nice at the end of a long week sometimes to have a beer. Right, we will quickly grab Andrew's notes about the WNIHL. I will then immediately press the wrong button and accidentally open a different part of my emails. So looking at the bits and pieces that Andrew has sent, the first thing we should probably talk about, of course, we know about the GB under 20s, of course, we know that they have secured the silver medal regardless, that loss to South Korea, denting their promotion chances. The GB under 18s women's are in Katowice, Poland at the moment. GB winning, promoted last season, so expected a tough time out. Have played 3 games so far, a 4-0 defeat to Austria in the first game before a 1-0 win over Spain a couple of days ago. Olivia Barth with the lone goal and a 41-shot shutout for Evelyn Brown in goal for GB in that one, before a 4-1 defeat yesterday against China. Rebecca Wozlinski with the lone goal for GB. They did tie the game at 1 before China pushed themselves away. GB now have 2 games remaining in their Division 1 Group B World Championships for the women's under 18s. They play Poland tomorrow, and then they play Australia on Sunday. Poland beat Australia 12-1 the other day. one of these games is probably looking on the more winnable scale. Either way, there's points to be had for GB, because if results go their way, bronze is not out of the equation for them. Elsewhere, looking at bits and pieces, I just want to click my things there because I've got the fixed graphics there. In terms of what Andrew has, given me, just looking at the notes here. Apparently, as well, one of the games not included in the recent fixture thing, the Frank Wright, the developmental conference have a game. There is a game between Slough Sirens Odyssey and the Cardiff Comets development side coming up on, I believe it is Saturday. I believe it's either Saturday or Sunday. We just need to double check. So on Saturday, yes, it's at 7:15 p.m. on Saturday. This one, Slough play Cardiff in Division 2 South on Saturday afternoon, and then 7:15 p.m. Sirens versus Comets. Sirens Odyssey versus Comets Developmental is 7:15 p.m. at Slough. So looking at we've got a few results then from the previous weekend, which I can't. Which I haven't got a graphic for here, but big thanks to Andrew for this one. So just looking at last weekend, 1 South, a big win for the Cambridge Kodiaks. They beat the Chelmsford Cobras 7-5 in Chelmsford. Kirsty Lane, Urina Neradova, Jenny Bolton, Teresa Plankova, and Kezia Birchall for the Cobras. A hat-trick from Alicia Anderson and goals from Scarlett Shelton, Christina Ashley, Rachel Holland, and Viv McGee for the Kodiaks. In 2 South Valley Conference, a big win in the local derby for the Slough Sirens. They beat the Solent Amazons by 4-2. 2 goals from Kat Losnitzer and goals from Esther Haskins and Dee West Attrell for the Sirens. Sarah Porter and Leah Truman for the Amazons in that one. Elsewhere in South 2 Valerie, a pretty comfortable win for the Cardiff Comets over the Chelmsford Pythons, 9-1 for the Welsh side at the Riverside. Kezia Birchall with the lone goal for the Pythons, a hat-trick from Jordan Phipps, 2 goals from Emma Gordon and goals from Amy Cannon, Kim Bosher, Elizabeth Shapley and Bethan Williams for the Comets in that one. South to Elizabeth, in the battle of the second teams, a 6-1 win for Bristol Huskies 2 over Cambridge Kodiaks 2 in Cambridge. Poppy Shepherd with 2, Emma Parfitt with 2, Victoria Courtney and Beth Worth for Huskies 2, Tallulah Green with the lone goal for the Kodiaks 2 in that one. North 2 Valerie and Whitley Bay Beacons with a shutout victory on the road. They win 8-0 in Shropshire against the Telford Wrekin Raiders. Iona Harrison with 2, Vicky Smith with 2, Molly Walker with 2, and goals from Brooke Royce and Megan MacArthur. On Sunday, in that Frank Wright conference, the developmental conference, a huge win on the road for the Oxford Shining Stars. They travelled to Bristol and they put the puppies all the way down. 18-0 win for the Oxford Shining Stars. 4 goals from Emma Patrick, 4 from Gail Wilson, a hat-trick from Lucy Smythe, and then 2 goals from Ruby Barrett, 2 from Kathy Evans, 2 from Atlas Ashworth, and a lone goal from Karen Featonby. And one game as a challenge game, a first game in the history of the Glasgow Thistles, and a win over the Caledonian Steel Queens, 7-2. Congratulations to Glasgow on their first ever game and their first ever win, albeit not in competitive fashion. There are no WNIHL Elite League games until the 18th of January. But what it does mean is that I can click this button and then we can have a look at the fixtures from the WNIHL structure this upcoming weekend. As we just have he says just quickly making sure he's got the right graphic up there. There we are. Starting in Division 1 in the north, just the one game there. Widnes take on the Caledonia Steel Queens. That's a 4:25 face-off this coming Sunday in Widnes. Also on Sunday in 1 South, Streatham Storm 2 welcome the Chelmsford Cobras to the High Road. North 2 Valerie Conference, Kingston Diamonds 2 against the Telford Wrekin Raiders. The Raiders will be hoping to at least get a goal on the board after their 8-0 defeat the other day. Leeds take on Whitley Bay 2 at the Castle. That's Sunday at 6:35. Saturday in North 2 Elizabeth up in Scotland, the Caledonia Steel Queen Bees welcome Kingston Diamonds 3 at 12:05 face off in Nottingham. Vipers 2 take on the Leeds Thorns on Sunday. South 2 Valerie, as we mentioned, Saturday at the Hangar, 1:15 p.m. in South 2 Valerie action, the Slough Sirens and the Cardiff Comets, and then 7:15 p.m. later that day, same venue, Both clubs' respective developmental sides will take each other on in the Frank Wright Conference. Elsewhere, Oxpen, Sunday, 4:40pm face-off in the reverse of the local derby. The Midnight Stars welcome the Solent Amazons. South to Elizabeth at the Sky Dome on Sunday. A 6pm face-off between the Coventry Phoenix and the Lee Valley Vampires. And then just a few games left in the under-16s division. In the north, Saturday at the Forum, Billingham welcomes Sheffield. 12:05 up in Scotland, Caledonia Iron Maidens take on the Kingston Diamonds, and a 4:30pm face-off at over in Queensferry. The Deeside Dragons and the Whitley Bay Beacons. Just the one game this weekend in under-16 South. The MK Storm and the Ice Bees meet Saturday, 4:15 at the Thunderdome. Took my first trip to Chelmsford last weekend to see the Kodiaks beat the Cobras 7-5. Cobras gave it a good fight. Alicia Anderson off the Kodiaks scoring a hat-trick. Yeah, fantastic. I know you've been following the Kodiaks around, Dave. Glad you're enjoying that this year. We like the fact that we've got a big mix of people here who come and join the chat during the What's Current stream. But either way, we have done it. Every game since at least New Year's Day across the senior divisions of British hockey, we've covered the lot. We've done the Elite League, the National Division, we've done 1, we've done 2, we've done North, we've done South, we've done SNL, we've done WNIHL. And that means on a Friday night, the door is open. Questions, comments, thoughts, feelings, anything you guys want to chat about as we keep tabs on the scores rolling in from across the top two divisions this evening. Big thanks, of course, as ever, to the folk Andrew Day for his WNIHL notes that I've used this evening. It's Connor at SNL Ice Hockey Updates on Facebook. Make sure you go over and follow that. A big thanks, of course, to Max Van Mullen for our National Division fixture graphics. And, of course, if you need all of the lowdown on all of the big numbers from everything, it's nhlstats.wordpress.com for Joe Scutts, of course, who joined us live on the show from the commentary box in Basingstoke. So, we like to do things different here on the What's Current stream. If nothing else, I'm just going to quickly forward something that's just popped up on my phone to my wife because she'll be interested to see it. Third underway in Leeds. We all keep tabs, and there has been a goal. It's tied up the Clan. Worth 3-2 in front, but Kevin Tansey. Now, they say in Sheffield, they like to say Tansey smash. Well, Tansey has smashed one into the back of the net past Lucas Bryan, tied 3-3 between the Clan and the Steelers in Glasgow. Just having a quick check. I can't immediately see any other news. Thoughts on Henry Stalin stepping down as CEO and Grant King to act as interim Chief Executive Officer of Ice Hockey UK and England Ice Hockey in 2026. So, I mean, yes, this was on my list to mention, Andrew, and I wanted to do it here, like in our sort of bit at the end. I wanted to get through the fixtures. But I confess to having slightly mixed feelings about it all. Now, Henry was the very vocal, front-facing part of the efforts to get the vote over the line for Scotland Ice Hockey, for England Ice Hockey, to get us on the track towards a unified governing body. I deliberately did not get Henry on the show. I wanted him afterwards because he was going on a lot, and with all due respect to people, he was going on podcasts and saying a lot of the same thing in a lot of the same places, and I didn't see the value in having Henry come on and say the same things here that he was saying elsewhere. Could I have asked him different questions? Yes. But ultimately, I don't think we would have gotten different answers, which is why I wanted to wait and interview him now. And I will make that request. I will still push ahead with that request because I think there's still some questions to be answered. Ultimately, for me, I have a slightly mixed reaction to this because for me, it's leaving in the middle of the project. And when one of your senior leaders leaves in the middle of the project, I start getting a little bit antsy. I think is probably the thing to say about it. This is nothing against Grant King. Grant King, of course, has been part of this process the entire time as well. This is not anything new or different. So there's still a chunk of that leadership there. But certainly the big front-facing piece of this, we've not heard really from Grant King, apart from quotes in press releases. And suddenly the person who was very much the front-facing element of this is now gone. It's entirely Henry's decision to make, it should be said. This isn't I can't sit here and say, you must stay, because Henry's his own man, and he's got another half, and a kid, and stuff he wants to do. And maybe he's been headhunted to go and do something elsewhere. Ice hockey and non-league football have been a really good proving ground for him to maybe step up and do something bigger. But it does feel like somebody leaving whilst the job is half done, because we don't have a unified governing body yet. We've got the agreement to walk towards it, but what does the pathway look like now without Henry Stalins, who has garnered a lot of good positive capitals in terms of political capital, in terms of getting people on side. Where do we go from here? And what does the path look like now? This is the thing that confuses me, and the thing that was a bigger question for me. Getting the agreement to walk down the road is great. But what does the road look like? What are we going for? What are our bits what are our marker points that we need to hit? I really hope Grant King decides to now be as vocal and as visible as Henry was, because I think it's really, really important that people remain engaged. British hockey's biggest sin at times is people not saying enough and trying to do things out of sight. Can't do this bit out of sight. Can't unify a governing body without at least letting people peek through the window. Yes, as ever, we don't need to know the absolute minutiae of every decision that's going on, but we do need to know what's going on. And the clubs need to know what's going on. It's about not keeping people in the dark. Yes, decisions need to be made. The work needs to be done, but the work needs to be done in the present, and the work needs to be done while you're looking. And that's where I kind of sit with it. I don't like the fact that one of the senior leaders is leaving in the middle of the project for me. Some people say, well, he's done, we got over the line, that's the job done, this is the next bit. No, this is all one bit, in my opinion. And we need to see what's actually going to happen here. Call me cynical. I will wear that badge with pride. But it's not, like I say, something doesn't feel quite right about somebody leaving at this juncture unless they needed to or had to. So yeah, but that being said, massive amount of respect to Henry for the work he has done. I think he did a really, really good job of being that front-facing person, of being the person that was wheeled out and did all of the interviews and all the bits and pieces, and clearly got a lot done. And he deserves a lot of credit for that. But yeah, like I say, I'm just a little bit. Yeah, like I say, there's something that's it doesn't feel like the right time to go unless he needed to go, in my opinion. So yeah. Excuse me. Just double checking that we're not missing any bits and pieces. Of course, there's an advisement about temporary traffic lights in Guildford, so that's going to be fun tomorrow. Final period underway in Solway. And now it is live, and like I say, the boys that were very, very gracious about pausing out of it, but there it is. The Slapshot Syndicate's special interview with Brad Shankar is live over on Slapshot Syndicate YouTube channel, so do make sure you go check that out after you are done with here. If the Bison could get a goal, that'd be really nice. What is all I would say on that front? Intermission still ongoing. Third period has begun at the Sky Dome, so we'll wait to see on that one. Agree about Henry. Agree it's his choice, but would have been nicer for him to stick around and help with the unification. Yeah, like I say, and it's entirely his choice to make. I can't sit here and begrudge a man for making his own decisions, and but especially when I made my decision during the summer. But it feels the timing feels very odd in that kind of sense. Yeah, I mean, doing it at the beginning of the year and kind of saying, you know what, I'm gonna make 2026 a fresh new challenge for me, but you're in the middle of a challenge still, and that's the thing that kind of confuses me ever so slightly about it. But it is what it is. He's obviously sticking around from a consultancy basis to kind of help with some of the commercialisation of stuff, which is a lot of some of the stuff that he helped out with at Forest Green, is my understanding, during his time there. So at least we've got somebody who knows that, and that's a that's a big thing that British hockey needs. So going to be lots of fun to see what happens. We obviously talk about him a lot. Nicky Watt from 4,000 and Counting is over the water at the moment. He is heading over to Germany eventually, no thanks to Wizz Air according to his socials, but heading towards the DEL Winter Game this weekend. The Dresdner Eislöwen and the Eisbären Berlin will meet at the Rudolf Habig Stadion in Dresden, the big football stadium, which is an impressive place in and of itself for some outdoor hockey. 9 penalties in 2 periods, 5 Raiders, 4 Bison, busy rest. Hey, if you're going to do it well. Or this is guys from Basin trying to get themselves suspended. No, can't possibly go to Solway now, coach. But yes, busy refs, very, very clearly busy refs. I believe it's Mr. Matthews and Mr. Mr. Bicknell in that one. So should be always an interesting combination, those two. I see Team Canada have released their women's roster for the Olympics. If the rink's ready in time, they appear to have gone the Solway route, the Solway dimensions for the neutral zone in Milan, by the look of it. Just having a quick squiz, just seeing if anything else has popped up. A fan asking the clan to put traitors on the big screen until the plexiglass got fixed. Fair play. Just double checking. Matthews and Bricknell. Yeah, I thought it was. No extra news at the moment, he says, quickly skipping between bits and pieces. But like I say, anything else people want to chuck in the chat, please do. Obviously, NHL is rolling along. The Winter Classic was a shambles because that's what happens when you hold it in Florida because it's far too warm. But yeah, the other big thing, of course, talking about the DEL, is that Nikki will be seeing, should be seeing, of course, Liam Kirk, who is, according to media reports from the biggest tabloid newspaper in Germany, on the verge of being announced as having signed a 3-year contract extension with the Eisbären Berlin. Now, Kirk has been on an absolute tear as of late. Very much, Serge Aubin said in the media that he was one of the is one of the best players in the DEL as a result. It's not been announced yet by the club, but like I say, has been reported in the Bild Zeitung, which is effectively like the German version of The Sun, and has also been confirmed by Iceblog, which is one of the big German language blogs. The winter game between Dresden and Berlin is tomorrow. Face-off time is 3 p.m. Local time, 4 p.m. German time. But just looking at bits and pieces, the Eisbären have been on a bit of a skid recently in terms of their form. Have lost a few games recently. They're 3-7 in their last 10, having lost to Iserlohn 4-3. Liam Kirk has been on an absolute tear. As a result, he says, trying to get the roster list up so we can pull up the bits and pieces. Because what we want to do is look at Kirk. Why can I not just get the roster list? There we are. So Liam Kirk is currently... So Kirk, in the regular season for the DEL, 38 games played, 26 goals, 15 assists, 41 points for +3 with 10 penalty minutes, 7 power play goals, 4 game winners, and a shot efficiency percentage of 18.57 for Kirky in that one. Just looking at his bits and pieces, he has scored a goal in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games. He's on an 8-game scoring streak, which is, as you will appreciate, nuts. If we go back, so the fact that, like I say, Berlin have got a 3-7 in the last 10, and Kirk has scored. So if we go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So in the last 10 games for Berlin, lost 8-5 to Ingolstadt. Kirk was 1+2. Lost 4-3 in a shootout to Köln. No points. Lost 8-5 again to Adler Mannheim. Kirk had 2 goals. Lost 2-1 to the Grizzlies Wolfsburg. Kirk had Berlin's lone goal. Beat Nuremberg 5-2. Kirk 2+1. Lost 6-4 to Bremerhaven. Hat-trick for Kirk in the loss. 3+0. Lost 3-2 to Frankfurt. Kirk had a goal. Beat Augsburg 6-3. Kirk with a goal. Beat Munich 3-2. Kirk had a goal. And then lost 4-3 to Iserlohn last night. Kirk 2+0. Liam Kirk is in the form of his life right now. 26 years old, potentially signing to play in Berlin till he's 29. He's only putting himself in a shop window, and any contract like that for the DEL is 100% going to have an NHL or North American release clause. The door is not closed on Liam Kirk playing in North America again, I don't think. The window is getting smaller, but ultimately, arguably one of the best British players arguably the best British player of his generation is going to light Europe on fire. And especially given the fact there are a bunch of guys like Marcel Nobles, like Blaine Byron, all due to leave the Ice Band at the end of this season, this could become Liam Kirk's team in Berlin, in the heart of Europe. Huge opportunity for Liam. And you think about that, we are 10 years removed from him playing for the Steel Dogs, and how impressive he looked as a youngster. He could take over European hockey. Andrew, with a few games there in the Swedish women in the SDHL. Frölunda beating Brynäs. Frölunda 2-1 up on Brynäs in the third. They are third. Frölunda are first. 2-1 Frölunda win. Brynäs scoring with the goalie, pulled 1-0 down to then concede a goal just over 15 seconds later. Goal Sheffield. Walker Summer has put the Dogs in front at Dumfries. Summer from Steele and Kirk at 45-26 has the Steel Dogs in front. They've come all the way back from 2-0 down. Nothing extra at the moment that I can see. Still 1-0 leads at the moment. Where can the Cats find a goal? Swindon, well, they managed to have a few more shots in that second period at least. They had 10, considering they only had 4 in the first, is not ideal. Both teams with 1 power play apiece in this one. But on a night you need your big men to perform, Sam Gospel at the moment is doing the business, and the defence are holding Swindon at bay. Basingstoke still 2-0 down at home against Romford in a huge game that if the Bison can find a way to win would take them above the Raiders and into the playoff places for the first time this season. As we've just mentioned, the Steel Dogs have come all the way back from 2-0 down at the end of the first. They lead 3-2 in the third against the Solway Sharks. 3-3 at the second period break between Glasgow and Sheffield. Still 3-2 Coventry over Dundee in the third period at the Skydome. Last call. Questions, comments, thoughts and feelings as we edge towards the end of the show. As I'm going to go finish this and just have a bit of a chill out. Like I say, my wife is now closer to, not all the way back to normal, but she's certainly in a period where she is at least up and about and kind of moving. It was not, she was, whatever lurgy has been going around has not done the business for her. That's big news out of Leeds. A goal for the Knights. They lead the tie on aggregate. Matt Bissonnette, with 8 minutes and change to go, has put the Knights in front over the Wildcats. A massive goal from one of Leeds' big name players. And the league leaders at the moment are heading out of the cup as it stands. Huge goal for Leeds. But this is what Leeds do so well. Situationally brilliant. And as always, we've said it before and we'll say it again. Relentless. Even if Leeds do end up giving up their league title, you know that they are not going down anywhere without a fight. But yeah, huge goal there. Huge goal. Big thanks to Jamie for chucking those updates in the chat. We do appreciate such things. So this weekend, Guildford Coventry tomorrow for me on Flames TV. If you're at a loss for a game and want to pick up a stream, there are a few seats left. The away block has been open to home fans, so there are still a few seats if you want to come to the Spectrum. If you do come say hello. I'm quite easy to find. I'm the guy standing on his own at the top of a load of scaffolding. But yeah, it's a like I say, there's a lot of big games this weekend. Solway Basingstoke, huge in that one. You've got Belfast and Belfast and Nottingham, huge in the Elite League as well. Billingham versus Blackburn in North 1, going to be a really interesting game. Should be like I say, we just need to keep our eyes on North 2 for when Sheffield and Sutton will go head to head. That could steal the show in terms of games when that weekend goes down. But either way, a lot of places to get your hockey this weekend across all the divisions, so it should be great. If Swindon do lose this question will be asked. If Swindon do lose this, questions will be asked of the Cats' abilities to get over the line in big games, commentary record, etc. Those questions have been ringing pretty loud for quite a while, Jamie. But you are right. The questioning will become very acute as a result if they cannot find a way in the remaining 8 minutes and 26 seconds post that goal from Matt Bissonnette to get themselves over the line into the cup final. Either way, I think given the time, and it's Friday evening, and there's a few bits and pieces we all like to do. Like I say, busy weekend for us all, and it's been a pretty, pretty rough week here. So a big thank you for joining me on a Friday evening to chat through some hockey and keep myself entertained. We'll call it there. bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, your number one source for all things related to British hockey. Join me on my journey through commentary. Go through commentary in the box thinking. Latest piece will be up, of course, after this weekend. Yes, Dave, it's been called the Silver Dome for a while. It's a very, very old name. Goes back quite some time, so don't worry about that if you've not heard it. Hasn't been called that sort of publicly by Planet Ice for quite a while. Either way, as I said, in the box thinking. Hockey stories all there over to go check out over on the website bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. New hockey stories coming when it gets done. Pre-production in process at the moment, but we'll get there. Don't you worry. And as we edge ever closer, we are just about 2.5 months out from the 15th anniversary of Banners on the Wall. Head down into the description of the YouTube video. Check out you got the link tree there. It's got links to all of our social media. We're on X, we're on Facebook, we're on Blue Sky, and the link, of course, to our virtual busking hat over at buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. Never going behind a paywall, but if you like what you see, if you want to help keep the lights on and the wheels turning and want to donate to the cause, please go do that over at buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. And of course, all the YouTube spiel. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video, share the video out, comment, all those bits and pieces. We're always fighting the algorithm. We're a show that talks about British hockey in every level. And strangely, the algorithm isn't very favourable to people who want to talk about Lee Valley versus Chelmsford. Can't imagine why. But either way, do join the party. We massively appreciate you joining us on a Friday evening for a bonus stream. The plan is to be back, barring illness, next Wednesday night at 8 p.m. as per usual for the only show that goes live and covers absolutely everything from across all levels of British hockey. That is the What's Current stream. Big thanks to Joe Scutts for joining us on his birthday from the commentary box in Basingstoke for all the joy that was. Lots of fun to be had. We love when we do some things. Maybe we'll get some more regular guests in and sort of have be able to see their faces. Tie game at the Sky Dome. Otto Nieminen has tied the game up between the Blaze and the Stars. Interesting, of course, for me. I need to keep tabs on things, given that Coventry will be in Guildford tomorrow. But a big thank you, like I say, for your support. Shout out again to the boys from the Slapshot Syndicate for pushing back the start of their bits and pieces. Do go, please check out their YouTube channel as well. Check out their interview that's out tonight with Zach Shankar. Like I say, it's been a bit of a tough week here at BOTW Towers, but that's the joy of hockey. It teaches us that all things pass and the next adventure comes far too quick. And I got to spend a Friday evening chatting hockey with you guys. I can think of far worse things to do. Be happy. And if you can't be happy, then wherever you are, please do everything you possibly can to please be safe. As my friend Scotty Woz would say, take care of yourself and somebody else. For bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, this is Anthony Russell saying stay safe. And so long till next time. Join us tomorrow night on Flames TV if you're at a loose end. Otherwise, go and enjoy your hockey wherever you find it. And you can join us back here next Wednesday night, 8 p.m. for the What's Current stream. Have a good weekend, everybody.